Today, we will focus on the differences between these two palettes, FORD Daydream, that has been recently re-released, and the Holiday 2025 palette by Chanel, Nuit Astrale. We are in the same color family, let's say. So let's see together the differences in nuances. We will see also a demo on my eyes. One eye, a look with Tom Ford, the other eye, a look with Chanel. Since I'm into cool tones, like many of you, right? Cool tones are really trendy right now. And this palette shows that because this is a holiday palette. If they chose this type of color story to be released as a holiday palette, usually is because they have done a market research. We have different price points. Tom Ford now are around $100, euros. And the Chanel one, in euro, I don't know in dollars, but in euros was 68, 30% less than the Tom Ford, but it is sensibly less in quantity because this is 7 grams, more than 3 times the quantity of this one. This is 2 grams. Let me check, but it should be the usual 2 grams. Yes, 2 grams. So yeah, in terms of price per milligram or per gram, the Tom Ford wins. And have you seen the new Tom Ford palettes? I'm pretty sure they will reduce sensibly the quantity. So the shrinkflation will affect the Tom Ford, and I bet they will stay at $100. For now, I will just enjoy the beautiful Tom Ford quads that I have. Maybe one day I will revisit and show you my Tom Ford collection, because Tom Ford is another brand that I've been purchasing for 10 years. So let's compare the swatches. Both have the same formula, that is the Argelé formula. And if you want to know more about the Argelé formula, you can check this video here. And I also have a project going on where I have an Excel file, let's say, with all the Argelé products available on the market. You can refer to this video here for instruction about how to use that file. Everything is for free. It's just something that I do for pleasure and also for myself, so because I like to have track of all the available Argelé products, because this is one of my favorite formula. And yeah, we have 2 great examples of cool tones in this Argelé formula. These are rare colors to find. So let's proceed. This one is one swatch. Let's do it this way, clockwise. This is the lavender. And then we have this other color. This is a beautiful color. Wow, a bluish tone, purple, light. And finally the blue, that in the past I called Armani blue. It's like silk, again, the silky eye effect. I have a video about that is focused more on the baked formula, not Argelé. This is Argelé, but you can see it's like having a layer of silk on my eyes. I truly miss this Argelé formula without glitters, and this is a wonderful example of that. All the eyeshadows are shimmery, but without chunky glitters. This is the most glittery one, but it's not like the ones that are sold right now. The first implementation of the Argelé were all this way, so smooth without glitters, with different finishes, more metallic, as you can see here, more satin, and more matte, is more a satin matte. Phenomenal. I'm so happy I managed to get this palette. Let me wash my hand first. So let's start with this one. This is metallic, mauvish, but with some gray. So mauvish gray can be the most similar to this one, maybe. I want to see this one as well. Okay. This is more lavender, so I will swatch this here and this one here. And then we have the gray, the matte gray. Now, one association nobody talked about is with the Hermès quad. So you know that the Hermès quad has not my favorite formula, and you can check this video because I bought some Hermes eyeshadows, and it's more standard, talc-free formula, more chalky. It's not my favorite, but I truly like the color story of this palette from this holiday collection by Hermes. Fortunately, when that palette was released, I wouldn't purchase because of the formula, but I also was aware of this one. I knew that this would have been released for the holidays, and this was my choice. And this gray is the Chanel counterpart of that gray from Hermes. So it's a matte gray that, of course, because of the formula, turns out to be a satin, like a glowy matte, you see here. And this is much better than the original, let's say, the Hermes counterpart. So let's put it here. And finally, there's my least favorite color, because it's not the blue that looks in the pan, but has this greenish, golden greenish flip that personally I don't like. But this is the Chanel version of many indie duochromes that I've seen over the years. So here we have them. So Chanel here, Chanel Nuit Astrale, and Tom Ford Daydream here. For me, that I'm a cool tone lover, I wouldn't choose between the two. Both are complementary. But let's focus on the differences. Don't be confused by this pan here. If you cover that, I don't see blue here. I see a mauvish gray in the Chanel, with the exception of this one that has some bluish tone, but the golden sheen here dominates. So it's a gold, it's an interesting gold, I would say. It's a yellowish gold. So there's this contrast between the base that is blue, light blue, and this yellow gold on top. This is indeed a bluish purple with a lot of gray in it. This is a gray, and this is a lavender. Here I see more orchid. For sure, this color, but also this is more of the pink side. And this lavender here is darker, more pink than this one. So these are more stoppers, is lighter. And I can see the texture of these being a bit drier compared to these that are smoother metallic. I see this shade especially as stopper, much better than the other ones. Tom Ford is more opaque. Is a 20, don't remember if it is 2017 or 2018 quad, and reflects a bit that. I think this is much more contemporary. So yeah, more of the pinkish side or orchid side, the Tom Ford, and more on the grayish mauve with a touch of blue, the Chanel one. I think the closest are these two colors here. In terms of depth also, and Chanel provides other two light shades. So I like the Chanel more, to be honest, from the swatches. To me, lighter shimmers are easily wearable compared to darker shimmers that require something more of a glam look. So I won't use this one, but I can use the other three from Tom Ford on one eye. Let's see. Let's compare them on my two eyes. So let's start with this eye, and I'll use the Tom Ford here. So let's start with my go-to look, that is one shade, one and done, and that's it. I like to use this shade, the lightest one, all over my lid. And you have seen the swatches, right? And in the swatches, I see the pink color. Now, on my eyes, this looks like almost a silver with a touch of pink. This is a texture that I like, but it gets prettier over the time. I like a little bit of creasing with this shade, because right now is a bit too much for my liking, but when it fades a bit, it becomes very elegant. So this is a shade that I put all over like this. Put a brown liner and mascara, and that is my even office look, even if it's a bit bright, but that's it, and becomes very elegant in real life over the time, as I said. But I wanted to use this time 1 or 2 more shades. So I will use the lavender here, bottom right, like this maybe. As you may know, I don't like to have a darker color on my outer corner. It's cream sage woman to me, or me, of course. I'm truly about one and done. So I will just put it randomly here. And then I will use the blue as a liner. I don't like, personally, monochromatic looks. I like contrasts more. And therefore, with such a cool toned lid, I would pair it with a warmer tone eyeliner or eyeshadow used as eyeliner. So, but since I want to use only the palette here, I will use the blue. But monochromatic looks are never been my thing. I also don't like when people match everything. I like more, I don't know, eye that match, for example, I don't know, a belt or a detail. That is more interesting in my opinion. But yeah, it truly depends, honestly. This would be the first eye. Let's compare it to the Chanel eye. So the Tom Ford eye is this one. I use 3 shades except for that orchid shade of the Daydream quad. This is acceptable for work in my opinion. For me, I mean, I have yellowish skin here. I mean, I have a lot of discoloration spots. I have yellow patches all over my skin. This is the sun damage. Usually, I don't emphasize that, so I don't put anything here on the inner corner. If I want to do it, I put a champagne highlighter. I will use the first shade I placed as inner corner highlight, but it's not something I used to do. Then I will switch eye. I don't want to use that blue because everybody has used it. To me, that yellow gold is so overpowering. I will start with the more lavender one, so at the bottom right. The brushes that I'm using, this is one of my favorite for eyes from Aquodo. Yeah, I don't know if they exist because Aquodo has changed a lot and also has introduced synthetic fibers to the blend. Okay, so this is the all over shade, that is the lightest one. And then I'll do the same practically. So I will flip the brush and I will use the other side of the brush to place this color more on the mid to outer corner, let's say. And then I'll use the gray as a liner. I'm appreciating more and more the flat, even for liners, the flat brushes instead of pencil brushes. They look the same. Okay, so the difference I see in real life is that Chanel is a bit finer. Tom Ford is more metallic, a tad shinier. But the Chanel looks more muted. Looks like the pigment is finer, the powder is finer. I prefer the Chanel one. They look very similar to the point that I can go out and nobody would notice the difference. So indeed, I achieved the same look with 3 colors from Chanel, excluding the blue, and the 3 colors from Tom Ford, excluding the orchid. The swatches may be different, but once on the eyes, they look identical. What is the verdict? Which one wins? Well, to me, Chanel wins for different reasons. One is more contemporary. The color story is from this year, and you can notice the difference. There's more diversity in terms of finishes. And I excluded these 2 colors. So these 3, I used these 3 by Chanel on one eye and these 3 by Tom Ford in the other eye. So the finishes are the first reason. The second reason is the price point. Of course, if you don't consider the price per gram, but who finishes an eyeshadow palette? It's rare for me to hit pan, and I don't think, personally, this is not a palette I will hit pan because it doesn't have basic colors. This is more festive and done in original way. The third reason to buy Chanel, in my opinion, is that this palette is widely available, while the Tom Ford one is hard to find. The formula is very similar. I mean, the formula is the same, but finishes are different. I already talked extensively about the differences, but yeah, overall, I prefer the Chanel one. And anyway, this is a color I would rarely use, the blue by Chanel, and also the Orchid by Tom Ford. So the rest of the shades, the other 3 shades, look very similar on the eyes, as you have noticed. So all in all, Chanel wins. I think this is a must-have. I'm telling you, it's rare that I tell something like this, but this is a must-buy if you like the colors, of course, and if you are a makeup connoisseur. Yeah, this wins. It's the star of this season, and I'm so happy to have purchased it. These stay in my collection, although they look a bit redundant, but I don't care. I mean, I have so many redundancy in terms of orange and warm tones that I finally have redundancy in the bluish colors, purplish colors on the bluish spectrum. So I'm perfectly fine to have this type of redundancy. So this was my perspective. Let me know which eye did you prefer, if you have both palettes, and see you in my next video. Bye.